Dig Dug, one of Namco's most iconic titles, yet one of the most overlooked. Especially when compared to other Namco games, some people may look at the game at their local family arcade and be like, why aren't you Pac-Man? But in fact, this game has a lot of depth behind it, including dropping rocks, different dirt layers providing different enemy points, thin walls, partial inflations, and much more. But that's not what we're going to talk about in this video today. In reality, Dig Dug has so much more depth in this gameplay, even if the last time I played the game at an arcade, I mainly just freestyled by digging random paths. That's because this game's inherent core mechanic is giving you the ability to dig your own maze, making all sorts of paths in order to manipulate and outmaneuver enemies. Indeed, the game is flexible enough to have something for pretty much every playstyle. So in this video, we'll discuss a few examples of how utterly creative Dig Dug's mechanics can allow its players to be. But, before we do that, there are some things you need to know. First off, as there is so much you can get out of the game when you dig your own maze, I'll limit the strategies you can do to 5 for the sake of brevity and production. Hopefully with these 5 digging strategies, you can build onto your playstyle from there and get to digging mazes in your own unique way. Secondly, this is a video on how to utilize the deeper aspects of Dig Dug's gameplay, not how to use more well-known gameplay tactics such as the ones I mentioned earlier. You are always free to use those strategies as well as the ones shown in this video, but if you want to learn more about the other strategies, check out the links in the description. But enough talk. It's time for us to dig deep into this arcade game and unearth the very art of Dig Dug. There's one more thing you need to know before we actually get to discussing how to dig a path to victory. I would use footage of a game in this video, but most of the Dig Dug videos that I found key moments in are basically hours in length. So apologies in advance, but we're going to have to depict key gameplay moments using MS Paint scribbles. In order to illustrate such moments, I've chosen to appoint these cute monster girls I found in my arcade's back alley for the grand task of playing the roles of Puka and Figar. And of course, Dig Dug will be portrayed by this render Dig Dug made by a good friend of mine, Nintendo Dario. See this video's description for his DA page. Okay, we good? Let's get cracking. First, we're going to discuss Dig Dug's space creation mechanic. This mechanic is one of Dig Dug's signature points, yet most people, myself included, just spend their time trying to dig random tunnels and dig tall columns below rocks in order to drop them onto huge packs of foes. The truth is, this mechanic allows people to play in whatever ways they want to play. Whether you want to dig randomly, build mazes, or do something else entirely, you have the power and freedom to do so, even if some playstyles end up being more effective than others. But, if you're looking to dig mazes, there are a few things you need to know. First off, forks in the road are your friends. You actually move quicker through dirt past them when digging dirt, so forks are not only the backbones of mazes, but provide ease of movement. And when enemies reach a fork in the road, there's a good chance they'll pursue you like usual, but they may also go down the other path by pure chance. A word of note, since it takes time and effort to make forks, a useful trick would be to dig both paths in one go, as opposed to digging one path and digging another through the means of backtracking. If you dig mazes in smart ways like this, you'll not only save a lot of time, but also reduce the risk of enemies making you lose a life. One more thing to note. As I said, you are a tad slower when digging through than when moving through tunnels, so make sure to create mazes beforehand before enemies get really active, especially in later stages. And even when speed isn't really a necessity, it is important, as well as good in general, to make plenty of pathways before enemies start to get active, as there is more space for them to navigate in, as well as you yourself when the time comes for you to drop 2 rocks in order to spawn the pickup. In fact, you can even expand mazes to below the layers of the stage in order to rack up even more points. There are also other interesting ways to dig mazes. One of these ways is the usage of thin walls. When 2 paths are dug directly next to each other, there will be an aptly named thin wall between the 2 tunnels. Not only can rocks fall through thin walls, but also enemy attacks and even your own attacks. So if you want to utilize thin walls in your mazes by utilizing tightly packed corridors, go for it. It's risky due to fire guards being able to breathe fire through the walls as well, but the ability to pump air into enemies from strategically dug locations can be worth it. Next up are zigzags and dead ends. The neat thing about zigzags is that they provide a lot of travel distance in a small amount of space, making it tougher for enemies to get from place to place. Especially when enemies are moving slowly, they don't have the ability to dig through thin walls, allowing you to make a quick getaway, perhaps by digging straight through the zigzag instead of taking the path. Dead ends are also useful for a particularly niche reason. Said reason is an often overlooked fact, and in fact, Google's AI even lied about it. But enemies are actually unable to turn around and dig dug while in the middle of moving through a path. So, if you dig a dead end that an enemy ends up moving into, they will have to go to the end, then back to the beginning. Depending on your positioning on the level, you can naturally force the enemy to go down a dead end. Except, there's one small thing. Ghost mode! When enemies really want to get to you, they will enter ghost mode, which lets them travel through dirt, albeit somewhat slower. This means that dead ends won't always work, as the enemies will just reach the end only to start going through the wall until they reach you. But there is a glimmer of hope, and it also has to do with an obscure enemy fact. When enemies are in ghost mode, if they touch any path, it is very much possible for them to enter that path instead of the one you're in. So, how you deal with enemies entering ghost mode at inopportune times is simple. You just dig other paths in front of the ones you're currently in, and when an enemy touches that path while in ghost mode, they'll be forced to enter it and have to travel further to get to you. As a reminder, Dig Dug allows you to dig in your own unique way, allowing you to use any method you want. Will you make intricate mazes with forks in the road, improvise and just dig random tunnels, banking off the points you get from digging dirt, prioritize path mazes with thin walls? All these and more are available in this well-known but misunderstood Namco arcade game. Indeed, it may even be possible for a run of data to have every level be hosted to a creative masterpiece of a maze expressing the player's very intention and soul. Well, at least until you beat a level or run out lives. In conclusion, we've only scratched the tip of the iceberg of what's possible in a game where you can dig your own maze. The game's director, Masahisa Ikegami, likely had no idea how deep this game would end up being. Or perhaps he did. Either way, both of these cases wouldn't be surprising. When the game lets you dig a tunnel in whatever ways your heart desires, using thin walls, rocks, items, dirt layers, and you utilize all of these things to their maximum potential, you will get into the highest ranks of the arcade leaderboard. just like this game deserves to be amongst the highest ranks of Namco's games. This was a video about how Data has a lot of overlooked potential in its core gameplay. If you enjoyed it, just like and subscribe, okay? I feel like I said this enough times already.